Welcome, Sojourners, to the Women's Leadership Mindset series presented by Teresa K. Page, LLC. My name is Teresa Page. I am your host and looking forward to spending these next few moments with all of you. We have a lot of work to get done on today, but first, allow me to invite you to connect with me by subscribing to my website and YouTube channel. Connect and follow me on LinkedIn, and always feel free to contact me directly via email at teresakpagellc@outlook.com. So what is our goal? Well, as an author, speaker, coach, and mentor, my mission is to help professional women renew their leadership mindset with fresh fire and purpose through the mediums of leadership development and coaching services. However, the Women's Leadership Mindset series is a new initiative intended to spotlight powerful women leaders and how they serve the world through their professions and purpose. So with the goal to help women realize their unfulfilled dreams and re-energize the leaders they always were, this platform is designed to enhance, empower, educate, equalize, and even emancipate, as our special guests share their entrepreneurial stories, provide valuable resources, and guidance in a caring, professional, and impactful manner. So, let's get down to business. Well, all right, in today's video, it is my pleasure to welcome to my virtual stage Frances Strickland, founder and CEO of Chastain Global Enterprises, LLC, located in Racine, Wisconsin. Fran Strickland grew up in South Carolina, USA, and lives in Switzerland since 2009 and has two sisters. She was raised by loving parents and extended family who taught her the values of integrity, hard work, continuous learning, and faith. Fran is a determined person who believes in growing and reinventing herself to stay positive and relevant, making meaningful contributions to life and the people around her. In 2013, Fran launched Chastain Global Enterprises, LLC, with official publicity in 2021. Before starting her business, she had a rewarding career in manufacturing and human resources. Today, Fran is a profitability expert through VeroLead Biz Solutions under the umbrella of Chastain Global Enterprises, LLC. She collaborates with owners, founders, CXOs of small and medium businesses to stabilize cash flow, grow profit margins, build a legacy if they want, and help them achieve profitability that supports business growth and a lifestyle they can enjoy. Among other custom services, Fran's core business offers 3 tiers of profitability growth services. Ignite Strategy is designed for early stage founders ready to take off. Ignite Stability is designed for established businesses seeking predictable profits. And Ignite Soar is designed for businesses ready to reach new heights. Each tier is uniquely designed to address business needs within their cycle and to lay a foundation for continuing growth post their achievements with VeroLead Biz Solutions. So to contact Frances, you can reach her on her website at www.verolead.com. You may also email her at fran.strickland@verolead.com. And for our listening audience today, please be sure to put TK Page in the subject line. You may also connect with Fran on LinkedIn at fran-strickland-accelerated-profitability. And you may also book an appointment at calendly.com/time-with-Fran/profitability. Now we'll bring all of this information back to you along with Fran's free complimentary gifts before we go. But first, let me say, Frances, welcome. How are you?
Thank you, Teresa. I am fantastic. I am just so honored to be with you and to be with your listening audience and certainly to see you again. And you're just glowing. I just feel so blessed to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And it's such an honor to be able to be with you. I know that we have recently met in the networking space, and with you being all the way in Switzerland, just to find out we're almost homegirls here from the Carolinas here in the U.S. So
Right.
it's such an honor, yes, ma'am, to be able to spend some time with you on today. I am really excited about our conversation. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Right. Well, you talked about me growing up, and actually, I believe that the way you start is the way you end up. So fundamentally, I'm still that little girl that grew up in that small town in South Carolina, 5,000 people, brought up to be kind of outspoken and cheerful and optimistic. And I guess that's the best way to describe who I am at the core. A person of strong faith, that's very important. It's carried me. That's where I turn day in and day out, not only when I have challenges, but when life is good, because that's when you build your muscles, when life is good. Practice when life is good, because there will be tough times. And that's my philosophy. And of course, I like to work because I finished my career in corporate America and now I'm doing my business. I don't use that R word, the R word, because to me, there's no such thing. As long as there is life and breath and, my faculties support it, I can be a difference. And that really is who I am.
Well, that's so awesome, Miss Francis. I like what you just said just a minute ago about building your faith muscles and practicing when life is good. Oftentimes I have heard, I guess maybe also in the church space, because I am a preacher's kid. So most times we say that we build our faith when things are not good, but you said something that just triggered me to say to practice when life is good, as far as building our faith muscles. Can you lean into that just a little bit more about that, why that is so important, that when life is going just the way that we want it to go, why that is the best time to start building upon your faith muscles for whatever it is that you're setting out to do in life?
Very well. Well, I'll start with one basic tenet, and I also will tell you this: that I spent like 10 years in biblical research and teaching, and actually did an in-home fellowship where I was teaching uh, other believers about the word. And there was something I used to say, that we either get pleasured out or pressured out of the goodness of God. Okay. And so the way to avoid that is by capitalizing when things are quiet, to really be in gratitude for that period of time. I always say gratitude is the great corrector of bad thinking. But it's the great corrector of bad thinking. And so in that period when things are going good, it is a time to be in gratitude and to remember that it is the Lord who gives us the power to get wealth. And if we know anything about his redemptive names, healing and covering and peace, all of those things that he is, and we are basking in that goodness, give thanks because he has proven himself. And, the word also talks about in Job, that I feared has come upon me. Okay. So that tells you that whatever you're carrying in your mind, you attract, right? So what do you want to think on? Those things that's good and pure, That's what we want to build in our minds and heart, because it's amazing. In times of difficulty, how you get through is by teaching yourself about the goodness of God along the way. And so use that time to align that good feeling with the goodness that you see in your life. So when it's not so good, you can call upon that and pull that energy and that feeling. Because even now, for example, my favorite scripture, and we know all things work together for good. And so in the morning, I wake up and I say, things are always working out for me, even when I'm unaware. Okay. Some mornings I wake up and I have pressures. I'm a small business owner, I'm a human being. But when I said things are working out, I am elevated to a new height of courage and expectation. So that's what I mean.
Well, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. Can you maybe give us a couple of tips for those who might have some difficulty with thinking bad thoughts or negative thoughts? Maybe just maybe one or two quick tips, and especially in even if one is a spiritual person or not, maybe what are maybe two quick tips that will help a person who traditionally have a lot of negative thoughts, how to burst through that to start considering those things that to help them build a resume of gratitude. What are maybe one or two ways that they could do that practically?
Practically, start with this. When I get up in the morning and I make up my bed, okay, I thank the bed for a sweet sleep. Just simple things of flipping into, what if I didn't have this? So I thank the bed for a sweet sleep. I think I'm thankful for a roof over my head. Or I'm thankful if I know someone that I can call. It is not the big things. It's not the big things. It's the small things. The fact that you can stand on your own 2 feet and walk. The fact that you can speak to someone that you know, a loved one or a friend. Those are small things that we take for granted, but they are huge. They are huge. So living in a perpetual awareness of the things that exist around us that we don't see, but really are truly a blessing. Whether or not you believe in something bigger than yourself, the reality is that when there is life, there is possibility. And that I would make a fundamental mantra for myself. There is life and there is possibility.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for giving us some insights there about laying that foundation for gratitude. So we're going to start shifting into your organization, Bureau Lead Biz Solutions. Now, you
Right.
shared what we learned about you in your bio is that you do have a career background in manufacturing as well as human resources. What was the motivation or the trigger that pushed you in establishing your enterprise and also creating Real Lead Business Solutions? What was that trigger and the motivation to start down this entrepreneurial path?
Okay. Well, believe it or not, it actually started back in 1983.
Okay.
I was in a manufacturing organization, had done a startup, and it was one of the most fulfilling and challenging periods of my life. It was greenfield, nothing was there, and I was working 80 hours in 40. And I had never walked away from a position without having another position, but I was compelled to do that. And in between leaving that position and going to another one, I actually set up a consultancy called Strictly Human Resources. So that was my first foray into entrepreneurship. And I had the presence of mind to supplement it because I had some other skills. So I worked through Keller Services to generate income, and I let myself out for doing human resources work. And I worked for a couple of companies doing things like working on their affirmative action plans and doing interviews and that kind of thing. And then I went back into the corporate environment, which I was the rest of my career. And then as 2013 rolled around, I'm here in Switzerland, and I actually was on holiday, and I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that really opened my eyes. And it was the one thing that came to me is I was working extremely hard building other people's dreams. And I said, what are my dreams? And I knew that I wanted my dreams to be beyond myself and to be impactful. And that when I finished that book, I remember it laying on the bed, and I went online and actually registered in the state of Delaware to establish my LLC. And that was in 2013. 7 years later, 2020, just before COVID really broke out, I ran across a former colleague who had started her own brand studio. And I reached out to her and told her about my LLC and what I thought. And she actually worked with me with my initial branding and setting up my website and everything. And so I always had the vision of doing something related to business. When I first started, it was heavily on leadership and organization on the people side, but I knew I was going to integrate business into it. And so within a year, I had also brought in the business consulting, and that really is the baby that I wanted to birth, if it's anything that, if you want to describe it that way. I wanted to have a business that would integrate not only just good business practice, but good leadership and organization practices, so that if someone were working for that organization, it would be a situation that it was inspiring for the people, okay, and healthy for people rather than the other way around. So that's how I got here where I am now.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, we do know that, as we mentioned earlier, that you have three particular tiers that is really the driver behind your business. Why don't you take us in? Let's do a little deeper dive in those three particular tiers. So you have something, a little bit, something for everybody. People is just getting started, early stages, midway, looking for those predictable profits. And I want you to speak on that too, as well as businesses that's ready to reach new heights that want to scale. Why don't you take us a little further deeper into each one of those tiers and what it's like to work with you?
Okay. Well, the three different tiers are really kind of focused on the broad life cycles of a business. In fact, I just did a series of posts in a carousels on LinkedIn about each stage of the business and money making activities. But there are some unique challenges for the business at those stages. So at the beginning, generally speaking, it is all about having cash flow. And you can see this when I talk about the difference between profits and profitability. Because profits is kind of like in the here and now. I call it the ATM part, cash in, cash out, right? And then profitability is about having something that you set aside that will ride out the highs and lows that inevitably come in a business. So I said, okay, the first stage is, I would say, roughly 70% of the people that I encounter are in that early stage where they are very much concerned about getting leads and, closing on sales and getting a cash flow. That is the icky time where there's no cash flow or feast and famine. Okay. They are standing around because they don't know how to stand out. They are running around because they don't know where to start. They don't know who their ideal clients are, nor where to find them. And they are saying they have to have all the bells and whistles, social media. Okay. So I designed that first level to give people a strong foundation, making sure that they get the essential pieces of what they need in order to reach their ideal client, find them, and start generating revenue sooner, like in 6 months, rather than waiting 2 years, like me. So remember, I've gone on this journey, and so I can draw firsthand of some of the pain I went through starting up. And I said, I don't want anybody to go through that. So that's why I have the Ignite strategy phase. Okay. I plan to supplement that for people who are even further down, just really, really starting and doing something from a group perspective so people can still access what they need and also have it in a financially viable way. Okay. Now, the next stage, Ignite stability. So this is the vision. Once you get a cash flow that's consistent, you are looking now to have a growing margin. You want to have a little bit more left over. Now, many times what's happened, people have gotten a cash flow. They have, they will see that their profits are not that much. They have profits, but it's really not a lot that they can do with it. It's kind of hit the wall. So the whole idea for that stage is to go in and look at what's been happening in their business, looking at their practices, looking how they lead and manage people, compensate people, how they're structured, all the little things that can suck away your profits and you don't even know it because of inefficiencies and waste and those types of things that can exist. What's so interesting is that when a business is making lots of revenue, many times it covers up the practices that cause them to lose money. But because they have the revenues coming in, they don't even know it. So it is about uncovering those opportunities and fixing them. We don't go in and say we're going to do it all. We do it in priority. The ones that can bring the best results the fastest. Now, this last stage, the Ignite SOAR, is for established businesses. Usually they're all packed out, they have all the functions, and they're saying, you know what? If we're going to continue to be viable businesses, we need to do some things about how we do business. So it may very well be like a strategy around the customer experience. It could be something around how they're structured. They might be going into new markets, or they may simply want to increase the valuation of their business. And so systematically, they need to go through and look at systems and whatnot and upgrade those systems so that either they are going to sell, merge, acquire, or hand it off to the next generation. So that's what those three levels are about. Now, each one is a unique offering. I do not do funnels. So it's not a ploy to get people at the lowest and take them all the way to the top. I take the business where they are. Every conversation is an in-depth discussion. If you're at level 1, about what you want, and level 2 and 3 is about where you are, where you've been, where you are, and where you want to go. And it's about building capability in the individual organization I'm working with so that they can continue to evolve with or without me. There is no built-in obsolescence, so people have to come to me. I want them to work with me by choice, but if they don't, they have what they need to continue to grow and evolve their business.
Well, I think that's pretty awesome, Ms. Francis, and thank you so much for giving us a little bit more insight about the inner workings of your organization. And I kind of like the way you said it. You actually took the question right out of my mouth about if you do start individuals from the early stage and then take them all the way through. So now, is there a particular industry? I know you would like to work with leaders and all of that, whether they're small or medium businesses. Are there a particular industry that you prefer to work with, or what does your target market niche look like? What does that look like?
Okay. Well, my target niche is B2B. That's kind of my ideal scenario. And quite frankly, everybody needs something with profitability if they're in business. Okay. Um, but when obviously I have experience in industries like fast moving consumer goods, automotive, electrical distribution, electronics, because I've worked in a lot of different industries during my career. However, if someone comes to me, like for example, I had someone that did translations professionally. Okay, I haven't worked with translations, but I know that those individuals normally know their industry. So together we partner, and this is why I do this in-depth conversation and analysis with them. And what they can't provide, information is there. That's not the problem. Information is there. It's the implementation. So if it's some information that's missing, I can get that information, but it is truly a partnership. So no particular group, because everybody needs profitability, unless we know that even NGOs, people who are not for profits, they still have to have a financial basis to functioning. And so therefore there are things that they need to do in order to have a good cash flow consistent with their mission. So no, it's like anybody who wants to have a little bit more left over after they spend, those are the people that I want to work with.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now, I know that you mentioned just a few moments ago that one of the inspirations behind the work that you do is that you don't want others to experience what you experience.
Right, right.
And as you know, entrepreneurship can be a very interesting journey, good, bad, or indifferent. So why don't you take us somewhat behind the scenes, and maybe share with us either your most funny or most intense adventure that you have experienced building upon your business.
Okay. So this is from my perspective in building my business, right?
Yes, yes, either
Okay.
yes,
All
just an
right.
experience, whether it's the most funny or the most intense experience that you have had while building your business.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'll talk a little bit about my journey, just really getting to the point that I could tell you that I had three different offers. Okay.
Okay.
Because people will tell you, oh, you start your business, you need to know, who's your niche and what you're going to offer. I can tell you that's an evolution. Unless someone is a serial entrepreneur, when they first come to the entrepreneurial space, they can say what they want, you can read what you want. It is like a little bit like a jungle. And you have to know yourself. You have to know, who are you trying to reach, and what kind of pain they're going through, and be able to articulate. And in fact, when I'm working with a client, we start at the beginning, and I have them to close their eyes and tell me what does their ideal client look like, and what kind of suffering are they going through. Okay, so that was a scary journey because it took me a while to land. Okay, in terms of working with a client, uh, probably the biggest opportunity as a consultant to an organization is the fact that you are really trying to influence a leader to take your best advice. And to be honest, sometimes they bring a way or a view of their organization and themselves in relation to that business that is a very tough nut to crack. And I had a person who came to me and said, "I need your help. I need to get more leads. My pipeline dried up while I was away, and can you help me?" But when I started to work with the individual, every time, every recommendation ended with that person saying, "Yes, but." Yes, but. So the most challenging is my working with a client that is in that space where they are asking for your advice and support, but yet they are unwilling to move with it. Even when you ask what gives them pause about that advice, there is nothing that they can point to. So you can't even really make an adjustment. It is somewhat a kind of a passive aggressive type way of the way they deal with change. Okay. And so you can't, you can't go off. You have to be calm and use database explanation to help them move down a curve. And quite frankly, at some point you have to decide, is that really the right client? And in this case, I had to say no, and I had to actually sever the relationship.
Understand that. And while we're in the space talking about, not being teachable, or for employers or business leaders not being teachable, first and foremost, why do you think that is? Is it because you feel like if you're the leader of an organization that you can't be taught, that you're actually supposed to be the leader, be the leader? Maybe that might be a little bit of it, or ego. Can you tell us why do you feel like it's harder to teach, um, or to keep leaders in a teachable space? Why that is, based
Mm.
on some of your experiences? Maybe give us some insight on why that is, and also to talk about why it's important, especially for growth, for business leaders to remain teachable and pliable and open for additional instruction so that they can scale to the level that they desire. So can you talk about the reasons why why leaders might be a hard nut to crack, and also why it's important for entrepreneurs and business leaders to remain pliable and teachable so that they can achieve what it is that they actually desire?
Sure, sure. Well, I've had the pleasure of working with leaders during my corporate career. I was a business partner. So I got to see a lot of leaders at different points in their careers, going up, going down, going out. And one of the things that I saw happen, most of the leaders who actually found themselves leaving the organizations I was a part of was because they failed to recognize change was coming. Okay. Um, it was a way of viewing the world that being well situated today translated in being well situated tomorrow. And so they failed to miss the signals from the organization that there was a difference of expectation in how they needed to show up, lead, and perform. So that's in a corporate environment. In terms of small business owners, just like in a large business, most of the leaders will have a legacy of success. And that legacy of success can lull a person to sleep. Once again, success now does not translate to success in the future. In order to be successful in the future, you do have to evolve, learn new things, in some cases, reinvent how you think and how you feel about leading and managing your business, and say, I don't know. The vulnerability, the the fear of vulnerability being seen and perceived as weakness, I believe, is the foundation for them not being teachable.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So that kind of leads into my next question. And it's still kind of in that vein of being able to crack the hard nuts that entrepreneurs and leaders can be from time to time. How do you build that trust then to,
Mm-hmm.
and especially if you're coming against or encountering an individual that may have a hard external shell, how do you crack that and establish that trust, so that so that they can evolve and so that they can finally admit that I don't know? How do you establish that trust with them?
They have to have the experience, to be honest. And in some cases, you will only make meager progress for a while. I remember in one particular situation, and I had this habit of asking a new leader that I would support when they would just get promoted or they would just come in the organization. I would ask them, "How do you want to see your career evolve?" Okay. Many times they would be able to talk about that. This is how they wanted to grow and evolve. Um, I always worked from the vantage point that one of my primary objectives is their success. And that I offered my expertise as another set of eyes and ears and hands behind them to see and hear, and in some cases to intervene on things that they would otherwise be blindsided by, and thereby would have an adverse impact on their credibility or effectiveness. And so, in the conversations that I would have with those leaders, particularly the ones who were very challenged, it was important to have data. Most of them were very data-based uh, uh, decision makers. They tend to be have very strong, action-oriented positioning of how they wanted to respond to challenges. So identifying what was really their preferred style, I developed a way of communicating with them that was consistent with that style. If they were dominant, database, action oriented, I didn't come with a strategic conversation. I would basically say, we got this, we go here. Okay, very action oriented. Here are the facts. This is what I know about it. This is the data that applies. This is how I believe it was impact. With entrepreneurs, if their business is up and running, my analysis is actually looking at up to 40 different aspects of their business and actually doing a quantitative analysis of the impact of changes in that particular area. Okay. If it is the type of leader that is more process oriented, they will have more questions about how do you get there. And it is really being in tune to the characteristics and preferences of that leader in front of you and actually saying what is their most dominant piece and playing to that.
Well, I absolutely love that, customizing according to who you're working with, and definitely having that agility to of that communication style based upon their leadership style. I think it's very key. I honestly believe, and this is also a great segue into my next question, because when we're talking about leadership styles, Ms. Francis, I believe that every woman is a leader that has a controlling influence, whether it's over a domain, a cause, a people, a territory, or a region. So with you being an expert of being able to adjust your communication according to the type of leader that you work with, in your own words, what kind of leader would you say that you are? And if someone was to work with you from a B2B perspective, what kind of communication style would they need to be able to work with you? So
Okay.
that's kind of a twist on that question. So I might have to ask that again. So first and foremost, tell me, what kind of leader are you? And in a business to business scenario, what type of communication style would um, would an individual need to have to be able to work with you?
Straight to the point, and what I mean straight to the point is, if you don't like it, tell me. If you want X, tell me. If you want to change, tell me. And I was working with one client, say if I'm doing like a one-on-one personal development program with a client, with a leader, and I will build out a success blueprint. Okay, based upon an initial interview, I feed that into my little proprietary process, and then I come up with this blueprint in 4 areas, and it will have specific activities below each one. But when we go through that first one, every session is followed by a critique and feedback. And I tell a client from the beginning, just tell me. Don't worry about my feelings, none of that. I am here to serve you. Actually, I just hate complexity, and I just do not like a lot of detail. I would rather figure the detail out as it applies than to try to get all the detail at the beginning. Now, that's how I like to work. But I also say, as an individual, I know that I'm an inclusive person, so I want them to be a part of that journey. Okay. I am also a courageous person that I can really, have a conversation challenging them around their thinking without being offensive. And I'm a compassionate person because, one, I've been a leader. And one of the reasons why I started doing the leadership piece is that I could see that so many leaders are not their authentic selves. And that's because they don't want to be vulnerable. So that compassion allows me to kind of nurture them a bit. So yeah, that's kind of my leadership style.
Well, that's all right, and I think the straightforward. I kind of like that straightforward, because we have nothing to guess about. We
Right.
can just get down to the business at hand. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Ms. Francis, we're going to start downshifting in our conversation, and I'm really enjoying our conversation on today. And thank you so much for some of the insights that you have already given us thus far. How would you say that you would like future generations to benefit from the work that you're doing today?
Yeah. You know, what I really want is that I want to enable the people that I'm working with now. Many of them are younger than me. And so they will have families, and they have a future in front of them. And if I can enable them through good knowledge about how to have a small business and run it well, that is going to contribute to their financial well-being and hopefully to the next generations. If they're talking about generational wealth, yes, if they can build generational wealth. And the fact is, entrepreneurship is a way to take responsibility for one's well-being. And I believe that the beginning of any quality of life is one's ability to take responsibility for their own well being. And there is a financial component. So, the extent to which can help people today establish that kind of ownership and understanding that they can present to their children and grandchildren, that those children can learn that it can make a difference for them in the future.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, Ms. Francis, now you know that since you have met me, you know that I am passionate about employing love as that ultimate success factor to renew women's leadership mindset with fresh fire and purpose. And I believe also that love is the game changer, that we can actually take it out of an emotional space and utilize it as a skill set. And I believe that love also gives us an edge so that we are innovative in business, we're powerful as leaders, we're present for our stakeholders or our clients, we're knowledgeable about the work that we do, and that we're also benevolent in our community service. So based upon the inclusive, the courageous, the compassionate, and straightforward leader that you are, how would you say that love has tangibly shaped you as a leader?
Oh, definitely. You either live out of love or out of fear. Okay. I'm in Europe. I managed a team of European leaders. And I can tell you that culturally, it's different than me being an American. I came to a region of the world where I was bringing my American self. And, Americans believe we can do anything. I mean, that's kind of what we are about. Um, in Europe, you know, you build relationships. It's a slower build up to getting that level of intimacy and growing those relationships. And the reality is that I came here with people from the United States when I came for my assignment, and I saw many of them struggle. And I've been told you won't make any friends, but I have friends from all ages and from all types of cultures. And the reason being is because I just love them where they are. Um, I'm a very patient person. Um, I can accept when people are not perfect. I believe in live and let live. And I am curious. So when I see something different, rather than it being wrong, it's different. Let me explore. And I believe being curious is one form of love because you care enough to try to understand from their perspective and not just from my own.
I love that. I've never heard it that way before, that curiosity is a form of love. I absolutely love that. And absolutely, totally agree with that, because I'm finding my conversations, especially in this space, I'm having the pleasure of meeting leaders from different places in the world. As you mentioned, building friendships with people in that's different from you. And so that's why I'm experiencing more in this entrepreneurial space. And especially in the virtual world, it opens our world so much bigger. And I love the fact of being able to have different conversations with people that didn't grow up like me, who don't necessarily believe like me, who haven't had the same life experiences like me. And it does soften one's heart to want to understand others and want to understand our fellow brothers and our sisters, regardless of where they are in the world or where
Right.
they come from.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I love that. I've never even took that into consideration, but thank you for giving that to our audience, especially now we're living in a world where you almost have to draw a line in the sand of who you're with or who you're not with. But to understand that we have a commonality in our human spirit, we should be able to afford that curiosity to at least to understand, even if we don't agree, at least we can understand and maybe get a concept of why people do what they do. And maybe that would help us a little further. So thank you for putting that on the table. The curiosity is a form of love. I love that. Thank you so much. So
Welcome.
we're beginning to wrap this up. I'm loving our
Sure.
conversation. So here's an opportunity for you to educate, for those individuals and who have not started out. They believe that they do want to move into a particular career or step into a particular business. It's something that's really on their heart to do. but for whatever reason, they haven't stepped out there just yet. They feel like they need to have everything, but it's not necessary. Um,
Right.
what would you say? What tip, what encouragement, what resource would you give to someone that absolutely wants to step into their dream um, and to make it a reality, but they just haven't taken that leap yet? What would you say to them?
I would say, I would say, trim down your view. And this is what I mean. Have big dreams. Have big dreams. When you have big dreams, it's like standing on a mountain and you can look out and you can see like the world laid out before you. The opportunity with that is it's overwhelming. So bring that dream in to something that you can get into your sights and work with. I say, do not despise small beginnings. I am a great, I am a great believer in the pilot or the test run. Okay. You have friends and family. If it's a space that you can serve them, try it out with a few people. In fact, so many people who've made the jump said that they were doing something and they were at a party talking to some friends about it. People say, you know what? I'd buy that. Okay. So don't be afraid to start small, test it out, and then get that understanding, put it under your belt, and then you go a little bit bigger. Do not despise small beginnings. Use it to learn and then propel yourself forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. I felt love that trim down your view. And I think that's going to be helpful even for me because I'm a big picture girl.
Me too.
And so yes, ma'am. So I'm definitely entrepreneurship will help you will help you with that as far as knocking out some of the air in your chest so you can start moving in bite-sized pieces. So thank you for sharing that for us. So staying in that same vein, what about those who may already be living the dream? They're already in that career, they've already started that business, but they have reached a point of where they can't seem to push forward, or they might be feeling a little stuck or frustrated. What tip, what encouragement, or resource would you give to them?
Yeah. Um, I think that sometimes, when we get in that stuck place, we stay in the stuck place too long without finding a trusted advisor or someone to really talk to about what they're experiencing. One of the things that I find very helpful is to get into the attitude of gratitude. As I said, that's the great corrector of bad thinking. Okay. And then the second thing is to think what else. And we'll have an idea about a business and we'll set it up. There's this whole you hear this whole concept of multiple streams of income or multiple sources of income. I advocate that when you have reached a point uh, of continuity and consistency in that initial offering, it's now time for you to think of other ways that idea can be taken to a new group or presented in a different way. Because sometimes that frustration is a consequence of really being tired of doing things the same way. Okay. That's one. The second thing is to really look at, is it time for you to stop being like the only person doing it? Some of us will be just running our business, we're doing everything. Maybe we need resources, or maybe we need a technology. So sometimes it is the things that you do to help enhance your capacity to do. And then the third thing is to take a break, to take a break The one thing you want to think about is how do you have business continuity? So if you have your business, your sales generation that's going on, don't shut that down. Figure out how to put that on a low burn so you can step away and regroup. Get out in nature, go on a little vacation, but do something different to break up that monotony and then to do some reflection.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that concept. I haven't reached this point yet.
Me either.
I'm on my way. I look forward to get to the place where I can do just that. But thank you for giving us some insight. Well, Miss Francis, you have a couple of free gifts for us today. You have for our listening audience, you have a complimentary VIP strategy call and profitability analysis that you want to offer our listening audience is at a $500 value. And you also have an event that's coming up, tapping in with Real Lead Biz Solutions live stream forum, and giving us an opportunity for a replay experience. So why don't you talk to us about both of these complimentary offerings that you are giving us today?
Yes. So I talked about that the very first step that I have with any perspective, any client, because actually this happens after they've signed on for my service, that I spend a considerable amount of time working with them. If they're at the first level, what is it they want to accomplish? And, understanding what they've done towards that end. If it's the second or third level, then that's where we get in a proprietary approach where we're going through different aspects of the business and prioritizing, the opportunities and developing an action plan that a person can implement. And so that is what they would be getting. They will get the benefit of my proprietary analysis that digs into things like their commercial strategy, their financial practices, their selling process, even down to, their marketing, what kind of marketing they're doing. So actually, I'd be looking at all of those, looking at what is the potential upside by making improvements in those areas and them walking away with an action plan that is prioritized according to the potential upside and being able to implement those processes. The other thing that they do get that doesn't meet the eye is that when they get that, they do have an opportunity to come back and have another conversation as they implement if they have questions about what we've talked about. Okay. And all that is complimentary. Um, with the event, the live stream that's coming up tomorrow, it is with my wonderful friend, Miss Amanda Craven, who is a gifted therapist with a strong foundation in trauma and narcissism. And what she and I are going to be talking about is the relationship to self and how it can either help you and propel you forward or it can derail you. And so we anticipate it's going to be an interesting conversation where people have a chance to do an internal reflection of where they are in terms of how they relate with and to themselves. The opportunity from participating is also having access to my friend Amanda's services as well, if that is a space that an individual feels that they need help.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So we're going to make sure that we put this information in the bio so
Yes.
that our listening audience is able to take full advantage of these opportunities with that strategy call, as well as with the upcoming event. We do know they'll be hosted on January 30th, but we'll have the opportunity to kind of take a sneak peek through the replay. So we're going to make sure that we put this information in the
Sure.
bio. Well,
Sure.
Miss Francis, I have to tell you that it's been such an honor to spend some time with you on today. As we prepare to wrap up and to head out, what are your final words that you would like to leave our audience to push them forward for 2025 and beyond?
The one thing, it goes back to what I said was a favorite verse for me. Things are always working out, even when you're unaware. The universe hates a vacuum, and it is continually bringing things into balance. So you know things are always working out. Your role is not how, your role is to trust and believe.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you hear that, audience? Remember that things are always working out, even when you are aware, and that your only job is to believe. Well, Miss Francis, we want to say thank you so much. It was such an honor to have you on today. Thank you for joining us. Well, ladies, we want to say thank you for joining us for another episode. Remember that you can connect with our guest, Francis, by visiting her website at www.bureaulead.com. You may also connect with her via email at francis.strickland@bureaulead.com. So that she can know that you're from our listening audience, be sure to put TK Page in the subject line. You may also follow Miss Francis on LinkedIn. You can connect with her at Fran-Strickland-Accelerate-Profitability. And you may also book an appointment at calendly.com/timewithfran/profitability. And let's also be sure that you take full advantage of her complimentary gift, which is a complimentary VIP strategy call and profitability analysis, which is a $500 value. And also, by the time we get ready to broadcast this special conversation, we'll be able to peek into the replay of Francis tapping in with Bureau Lead Biz Solutions Live Stream Forum. And that will be available on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So we'll be sure to put this information in the bio.
Thank you.
Now, leaders, do you have an important story to tell that would inspire others to step into their dream career or business? If so, check the bio to learn how to become one of my special guests. Now, even though the holidays are over, it is still the most wonderful time of the year, and I want to help you celebrate your loved ones and teens with the My Journey to Wholeness book series and gift collection, featuring my new book, My Journey to Wholeness, Love, the Success Factor. You may visit my author's corner at Teresa K page at squarespace.com to check out my book gift sets, as well as home decor, glassware, journals, sportswear, and so much more, all designed with inspiring messages to remind you of what love can empower you to do. So new subscribers to my website, you will receive a 10% promo code so that you can utilize that at checkout. So check the bio to learn more. So we want to say thank you for joining us for another episode of the Women's Leadership Mindset Series. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, here's to the journey, and let's move forward.